unplanned. But so, lots of other kinds of goods. Medical goods, eyes. As you get older, you're increasingly glad that you had good eyesight. Not everybody has it from the beginning. My wife started off with a one eye that didn't work with the other one until she was a young girl. They operated and severed the muscle somehow so that it freed the eye so it could move better. But she still didn't have any sense of depth and so on. And you would not want to be driving next to her while she was driving. It was scary, actually. It's okay now, she's given up driving. Well, she's 72, but in any case, her eyesight wasn't perfect, and one of the things that they love to talk about is the complexity of the eye, especially when we talk about divine creation. You think, what could be more complex than an eye? How do you make an eye work? An octopus has an eye, but it doesn't work the same way ours does, etc. How could you see an evolutionary eye, just more and more better? No, it doesn't seem to work. Instead, we just have great eyesight. And of course, as you get older, your eyes start to lose some of their ability. I use glasses now to read, etc. My wife, by the way, this is just absolutely magical. She had cataracts, and she went in and they removed the cataracts and put in progressive lenses inside the eye, so that she came out without wearing glasses for the first time in her life, considering she was born with glasses. Very small. So eyesight, good eyesight, it's functional. It has a function. It has a purpose. What's the purpose of a human being? Nicht nein? Ich weiß nicht. Aristotle. What do you think it would be for Aristotle? Homo sapiens. That's a clue, right? And the knower, right? Remember in the metaphysics, he starts off by saying all men love to know, right? Obviously hung around with people that had lots of time on their hands, and they were all curious about things. And I know a lot of people who are actually not interested in knowing stuff. However, Plato, remember, the highest is the individuals that love to know, right? And for Aristotle, that same ethic is there. The best life is the life that he calls the contemplative life. So that's why, when you think about what happens in the Middle Ages and the people that have the opportunity go to monasteries and live in a monastery and spend their life studying what they can, right? Including sciences and things of all sorts. By the way, one of the things that I don't know how far back it goes, I think the Egyptians had this, and that was the belief that if everything is made up of earth, air, fire, and water, or some other small parts, what you could do is transform materials from one kind of material into another. And the favorite one to deal with was lead. So you could take lead, and if you knew how to do it, you could transform it into gold. Yes, that's where we get chemistry from, actually. Sir Isaac Newton was an alchemist. He studied other things too. And eventually we get the separation between the alchemist and the chemist, right? By the way, how many of you have heard of Harry Potter? Oh, actually a lot more than C.S. Lewis. Amazing. Harry is lead. Starts off as lead. And by the time you get to the end of book 7, he is turned into gold. And one of the keys to this is, if you notice, is that the sun rises as he kills Voldemort, and it's a golden light that shines. He's actually become gold at that point. So it's an alchemist story. Rubeus Hagrid is red. Rubeus is red. Albus Dumbledore is white, right? And Sirius Black is black. And the three famous chemical substances that the alchemist uses is red, white, and black in order to transform lead into gold. So it's the alchemist story, and one of its permutations, if you like, to think of that story. Remember, J.K. Rowling had a first in classics and French, and she ended up, of course, doing lots of research, and all the characters in the Harry Potter series come out of the Greek stories. Even Fluffy, the three-headed dog, that's Cerberus. I mean, they're all there, and it's just kind of amazing. So the best kind of life for Aristotle is the contemplative life, because for him, the best thing is just learning things. Why? Well, there's problems with all the other kinds of life. For example, the people that love stuff and all their happiness comes from physical things. There's not enough. There's never enough for everybody to be happy. I mean, I don't think that the Haitians in Indiana, what's the name of the town? Independence? No. Anybody remember? We're going to forget real fast, aren't we? But what's the name of the town where they're supposedly eating all the cats? Springfield. Apparently J.D. Vance says, yeah, the story was all fiction, but you've got to make up fictional stories to get everybody fascinated. No, or something like that. That's kind of interesting. There's not enough food. If people are eating cats, which I don't think they are, the problem is there's not enough food, right? How many people could be tasty? Oh, they are. Oh my goodness. No. I don't know. Yes.
Do you think that maybe there is enough resources for everyone to have their general needs met, but because you have a hole that only can ever be filled from inside to the outside, no matter how much is coming from the outside? That's why there's not enough, is because there's the unfilled, it's not because there's not. Does that make sense?
It sounds almost like a fractal in nature that way. But I go back to, this is actually much closer to contemporary times, Thomas Malthus, Reverend Thomas Malthus, and we call this Malthusian, who basically did a statistical study of how much food there is, how many people there are, and how people generally will proliferate, statistically, according to very fast calculations, whereas food can only be reproduced in very slow amounts. So that what happens is society goes through these situations where the population outpaces the food ability, as it says, to feed the population, and so something will happen. You'll have wars, or you'll have starvation, or you'll have diseases, or something will collapse the population until it's now back into harmony with how much food there is, and then you'll have the population start to grow again, peaceful situations and so on, no more poverty, etc. He's critiqued, of course, because scientific farming developed after his theory, and I think there were only millions of people at his time. But when I was born, there was approximately 1 billion people, And that was just one lifetime ago. And now there's about 8 billion people. So this is a period of tremendous prosperity for people. There's more people ever. And what's made it possible for us to have the food and resources for that many people, even though quite a few people are starving, constantly, actually, is the different fertilizers and things that we use on our farming, and the kinds of seeds and things. There's a lot of science involved in that. The kind of food that I'm eating now is nothing like the kind of food I was eating when I was a kid. In fact, we're all experiments. How much of us are plastic? We don't even know. There's all kinds of stuff. High fructose corn sweetener wasn't a food. Still isn't, according to some people, right? Hydrogenated fats, not good for you. Fortunately, as we consume more of this stuff, they also came up with medications that help combat that. So you can actually still live, even though what you're eating would have killed you long ago. You can actually still live if you have the financial resources to have the medicines that metformin mostly. You eat metformin with a spoon now. Metformin? One knows it? Yes, metformin. Yeah. I take 2 pills twice a day. And I eat chocolate donuts. So I'm doing all the bad things, and yet I'm taking the medications that, knock on wood, I'm still alive. Yes, everybody knows. So the answer to your question is, clearly, transportation is the biggest problem. So you have all kinds of food resources, but by the time you get it to certain places, it's dead. They can't eat it anymore. Or there's somebody else that will steal it before they get to it. Actually, I think water is the biggest problem in certain places in the world. So is 8 billion people too many? I think so. But how do you decide, okay, let's scrap these 6 billion.
Somebody already tried that not that long ago.
It happens routinely. I think that's one of the main reasons for war. I want that property. Hitler referred to Ukraine as Lebensraum, living space, right? And there's a fantastic book if you're addicted with the same kind of problem I am. But if you go to Taste of War. So the argument in this book is that the reason Hitler went to war against England was because Churchill was trying to starve Europe. And why did Hitler kill so many people in the camps? It was because they didn't have enough food for everyone, and he figured they actually decided this in a little white mansion, or it's still lit, even if you call it a mansion, on the Wannsee, which, by the way, you can visit. I got to visit there when I was in Berlin for a class. I went there for a sailing class, and we were in the room, and they said, this is the room where they decided the final solution. In other words, we will set up ovens and gas people, and that's how we could get rid of them humanely. There's a shot to the back of the head. Actually, then you have the body. It was a very slow process. They decided to just starve people, and after about 4 months, they realized, wow, that's really long. It takes a long time for humans to starve to death. So believe it or not, the gas and the ovens were considered a humane alternative.
Have you heard that the chemicals they use for the gas are the same chemicals that they are now using as pesticides? But that's where they got the recipe for modern pesticides.
I've heard of that. I'm not in chemistry. However, this basically is one of the books that says, it doesn't blame Churchill for World War II, but it doesn't blame Hitler for it either. It says, look at this. The food was the issue that really precipitated the World War II. So fascinating how that works. Definitely an issue. The battle for food.